You start changing Star Wars. Okay, you destroyed that one on us. Well, we can accept that and move on. You start changing Marvel on us and turning it into some crap with this new MCU. Alright, I'm starting to be on the outer. You start changing DC stuff, like ridiculous. All this swapping in the comics, and now what's happening in the movies potentially. Man, alright, I'm nearly done with that. You come for Lord of the Rings and Tolkien? No, that's where I draw the line. That is where I draw the goddamn line. This stuff is ridiculous, and now I see why Eric July, Young Ripper, is where he's at.
Just stop!
I can understand where he's been coming from because he's massive in the comic books, in all that Marvel DC stuff. But this is mine right here. Lord of the Rings. What they have done with this, Amazon, is nothing short of absolutely atrocious and just destroying everything that has come before it, which is what we saw Star Wars do with The Last Jedi and the sequels. I've done an article basically going over the whole Vanity Fair article and how they absolutely have destroyed this IP with what they're going to be doing in this Amazon series. Now, let's take a look at what they have done. This is not okay.
This is not okay. It's just not.
So this is the Vanity Fair piece, and that's new Galadriel there in the water, apparently. Amazon's Lord of the Rings series rises inside the Rings of Power. So they've done a whole huge article on it. Now, this is apparently the new Galadriel in full armor, which I don't know what battle this is going to be, because if you read Silmarillion, technically she didn't take part in the Kinslaying, which I can show you some quotes from Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales, that she didn't actually take part in the wars of the First Age against Morgoth. So I don't know what the hell she's wearing this for. And now let's take a look at some of the other characters they're going to be introducing. Apparently that's Durin. Then we have two of these new characters, absolutely new characters, not in Tolkien's world. The Lord of Dem Rings, this lady right here. And we also have a black elf with a fade, no long hair. Now that's apparently Galadriel and a new character altogether, another new character that Tolkien never created. Then we have young Elrond. And then we're going to get into this one. This is the one I'll show you. This makes no sense right here, and I will show you why. Absolutely ridiculous. These are just some of the scenes from the show that is going to happen. But let's take a look at my article on Geeks and Gamers. And you can check this link out in the description below. It'll be right there. Amazon's Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power series is dead on arrival. Dead on arrival. And that was the name of Ripper's video because it's damn true. Amazon's foray into the world of J.R.R. Tolkien comes to life as Vanity Fair revealed the first images from the Rings of Power, along with descriptions of what we can expect from those involved with the show. Let's start with Galadriel, who is being played by Morford Clark as seen below. So that's the image you saw in the article just before. And the other one where she has the armor on. Let's take a look at why this is so wrong. This iteration of Galadriel is completely out of step with Tolkien's writings, as Vanity Fair says Amazon will be introducing an original character for her to interact with. Here's the quote. She's struggling for survival on a raft in the storm-swept sundering seas alongside a mortal castaway named Halbrand, who is a new character introduced in the show. This one here. Now, the last time we saw an original character added to Tolkien's film adaptations was during the Hobbit trilogy, where the Sylvan elf Tauriel, played by Evangeline Lilly, who's also been in the MCU, was introduced to Tolkien fans' furor. Now, a lot of people were not happy that they introduced an original character, and then what they did with her character was they made a love triangle, kind of, between her, Legolas, and Keely the Dwarf, which, why? Thanks, Warner Brothers. Another issue with Galadriel in the Rings of Power is this next line. She apparently says, "I have to fight," during a scene in the upcoming show. What battle this is remains to be seen. However, other sources claim Galadriel had no role in the major wars of the First Age, believing that defeating Morgoth was beyond the power of the Eldar. But we also have a story from Tolkien's works. In the years after, they did not join the war against Angband, which they judged to be hopeless under the ban of the Valar and without their aid, and their counsel was to withdraw from Beleriand, the Western Lands, and to build up a power to the eastward, when they feared Morgoth would draw reinforcement. Now, that says that they didn't join in the war, so she wasn't involved. And this is from Tolkien's works. This is in Silmarillion, or this could be in the Unfinished Tales. And now this one is from the Silmarillion about the kinslaying at Alcalunde, and she is not mentioned. But there is also another story in the Unfinished Tales about a separate story about Galadriel being there, but it wasn't an historical account that it says. And the reason for that is the Silmarillion hadn't been published at the time, so her story wasn't put in. And this is the part of the story that says, in Feanor's revolt that followed the darkening of Valinor, Galadriel had no part. So she wasn't involved, or she didn't take the oath when Feanor revolted in Valinor, and then She wasn't involved in the kinslaying in Silmarillion, and she wasn't involved in the war against Angband against Morgoth because she thought it was pointless without the help of the Valar. So I don't know what battle she is in, but according to the text, there isn't one. So moving on, showrunner Patrick McKay states in Vanity Fair that the driving force of the series isn't based on Tolkien's works. Even further, he says, can we come up with the novel Tolkien never wrote and do it as the mega event series that could only happen now? Really? Can you come up with a show that is the novel Tolkien never wrote? So you're saying right there, can we make something that he never did to push whatever we want to tell or whatever story we want to make? Which is clearly what you're doing when you're race swapping all these characters that were never even in the story to begin with. That could only happen now. Oh, of course, see, because we've got to update modern sensibilities for the story. Come on, man. There have also been several people involved with the show that have departed for various reasons. Vanity Fair article states Tolkien scholar Tom Shippey gave an apparently unsanctioned interview to a German fan site opining on what the show could and could not explore. Not long after that, Shippey was no longer involved with the series. So they kicked him out because he did an interview talking about what the show could and could not do. Because as we'll see later on, they don't have all the rights to Tolkien's works. They only have a specific set. So that's what they were asking me about. Now, we also have actors like Will Poulter and Tom Budge, good Australian actor, also departed the series. Budge previously stated on Instagram, after recently seeing the first episode shot over the last year, Amazon has decided to go in another direction with the character I was portraying. In addition to those two, the show lost production designer Rick Heinrichs and Amazon head of genre Susan Tal Iguado. That was in Vanity Fair, that's what they said. They also compared these losses to the replacement of Aragorn with Viggo Mortensen in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is ridiculous. So I said it's a bit of a stretch comparing changing Aragorn to an older actor better suited to portraying the character to losing several cast and production members from a series. Because what happened was Peter Jackson saw initial filming, he thought the actor we've got for Aragorn is a bit too young and it's just not working. We're going to switch to an older actor. Now, that actually worked out perfect. Now, you're trying to compare here, Vanity Fair, trying to compare Peter Jackson changing out the previous actor for Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn, and you're comparing that with losing two big actors, your Tolkien scholar, a production designer, and an Amazon head of genre. You're comparing that with Aragorn and Viggo Mortensen. The showrunners know precisely what's at stake when they say, we know what it's like to be anticipating something and to be terrified that it won't be what you hope. At least they know fans will be prepared for whatever awaits them should the series not deliver the desired outcome for fans. Exactly. They know what's coming. They know what's coming if they this up. One of the very specific things the text say is that Hobbits never did anything historic or noteworthy before the Third Age. Here McKay further states Tolkien's words don't have much weight on his version of the story. He wants to introduce Hobbits because everyone associates them with the previous blockbuster films, The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogies. Because they had Hobbits and everyone really loved them, so you can't not have them in this show. Even though it says they didn't really do anything, there's just a kind of a description of where they were and what they look like. Now he says, but really, does it feel like Middle-earth if you don't have Hobbits or something like Hobbits in it? Come on, man. Now you're literally saying you're changing the story to fit your own narrative. It should not be about feelings, this is what I said. It should be about what the book says and staying as close to it as possible to make it compelling and believable within that universe. Amazon's Rings of Power series will also introduce another original storyline which centers on a Sylvan elf named Arondir, played by Ishmael Cruz Cordova, who will be the first person of color to play an elf on screen in a Tolkien project. Now, this is my tweet. So apparently there was this whole fake elves controversy that came out a while back that wasn't real. It turns out the elves of color part is actually real because this is the person who's playing Arondir, an elf, okay? The Vanity Fair article states Arondir is involved in a forbidden relationship with Bronwyn, a human village healer. So that's these two right here. Arondir and Bronwyn. Now, the issue we have here is that he is an elf and she is of, well, the world of men, the race of men. Where have we seen that before? Well, let's take a look. However, this goes against Tolkien's own words in the Lord of the Rings appendices, which Amazon is apparently using for their series, because that's what they got the rights to, the appendices of Lord of the Rings, that covers a basic timeline and an overview of the First Age, Second Age, and the Third Age, and a bunch of stuff of what happened and the timeline of all the events that happened. I'll show you the actual image of the quote, but here it is. The appendices state, there were 3 unions of the Eldar and the Edain, so elves and men, Luthien and Beiron, Idril and Tuor, Arwen and Aragorn. So this is the screenshot from the book in the appendices. There it is right there. There were 3 unions of the Eldar and the Edain, Luthien and Beiron, Idril, Tuor, Arwen and Aragorn. That's it. That's in the book. So there were 3 unions of the Eldar and the Edain. Let's take a look at what I said. This wholly fabricated relationship should be as ridiculed as much as, if not more than, the one between Tauriel and Keely in the Hobbit movies, which everyone was in an uproar about. How can you have an elf and a dwarf wanting to be in a relationship? What the hell are you doing? Now we have Tolkien's own words where there were 3 unions between men and elves, but now they've just created their wholly new 4th one for what? An interracial relationship on screen for the current day? Well, it's not Tolkien then, because that's not what he did. As it adds representation and diversity to the series, pointing out egregious lore and continuity errors will undoubtedly cause me to receive some form of backlash from woke warriors. And now, yeah, if they find it, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some backlash. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be fun. Now, we're not done, as Amazon is also adding yet another first, with Sophia Nonvet playing the first black female dwarf in a Lord of the Rings movie, as well as the first female dwarf. And now we've got Quarter Black Garrett's tweet here. The only hairstyle black women are allowed to have in movies these days are massive oblong afros. As we also know, dwarf women, they have beards, and this one should have a beard. Now, why haven't they given this one a beard? I have no idea. It could be their perfect idea for a trans-looking dwarf in the new Amazon series, but they missed that opportunity. Where's the beard? And now we do have one quick funny one of this, which is someone put on Twitter, postmortem 666. They were actually responding to the OneRing.net, and now they've deleted all their tweets, the OneRing.net, because that's what they do. They're trash. But postmortem post this, Lord of Damn Rangs. Pretty funny. So let's continue. However, if you remember the first Hobbit movie, An Unexpected Journey, there were female characters who appeared to be dwarves. They were seen in the city of Dale and also running out of Erebor after the city was attacked by Smaug. So you can actually see some in The Hobbit, the Unexpected Journey, the first movie. Now there's a dwarf-looking woman there, and there's another one here. And now also when they ran out of Erebor after Smaug attacked the city, there looks like a woman there. And then there's another one there. So this claim of being the first female dwarf in Lord of the Rings movies is false. Perhaps if they said a prominent dwarf character, it would be true, because we just saw them right there. So it's just not true to say that she's the first. The next line from executive producer Lindsay Weber talks about reflecting what the world actually looks like. Weber says, "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like." But which world are you talking about? Tolkien's world, which he's built out the lore and the characters and the races and the times, or the current day agendas driven by social justice? The original text seemingly matters little and can be arranged at a whim to suit Twitter activists obsessed with representation and diversity. Where in the text does it state that these characters exist? It doesn't. That's why you had to invent them to push a new story devoid of source material with a completely different agenda in mind, which is exactly what we're seeing. Nowhere does it state any dwarfs look like this. Nowhere does it state any elves look like this. But current day agendas, that's what Amazon's going for. That's what we're going to get. Vanity Fair responds to the backlash received after the diverse cast images were released, saying, "When Amazon released photos of its multicultural cast, even without character names or plot details, the studio endured a reflexive attack from trolls." In response to this, Tolkien scholar Mariana Rios Maldonado said in the article, "Who are these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea that an elf is black or Latino or Asian?" So, this is where I said, I could ask the same question if we were to change a historically black or Latino or Asian fantasy to white characters for the sake of diversity. Why not change Black Panther to a white male or Mulan to a white female? The argument is always that now they can see themselves as that character. Okay, well then make Black Panther white so the white audiences can see themselves as that character, or anyone in Wakanda. If it's not okay to race swap a black or Asian character for a white one, it shouldn't be accepted, vice versa. The point is, if it's not true to the story, regardless of someone's race or gender, then it's not the same story you claim to be making. In this case, Tolkien's works. Maldonado, and this is according to Bounding into Comics, is not a Tolkien scholar, but is rather a PhD student at the University of Glasgow who is interested in ethics, feminist theory, and encountering the other in Tolkien's works. It's a very low bar to be called a Tolkien scholar these days. Let's have a look at this actual person's Twitter, because according to her own Twitter, she is a PhD researcher on Tolkien ethics at University of Glasgow, and she's also Equality and Diversity Officer at University of Glasgow Fantasy, and she's pronouns, so that's who we're dealing with. Finally, the Vanity Fair article speaks about the time frame covered in this series. In Tolkien's works, it covers thousands of years of history. How will the showrunners tackle this? Well, J.D. Payne, one of the showrunners, says, "If you are true to the exact letter of the law, you are going to be telling a story in which your human characters are dying off every season because you're jumping 200 years in time. and then you're not meeting really big important canon characters until season 4. It seems they will be compressing the story for time, which is understandable, as the Silmarillion has periods of hundreds of years of peace between battles at some stages. But this following line from Payne is one I take issue with. Look, there might be some fans who want us to do a documentary of Middle-earth. Yeah, that's your job. But we're gonna tell one story that unites all these things. So, why would he say that? Why would he say that we're going to take all these pieces and put them together in a uniting aspect in this show? Well, it's actually because Amazon can't use material from the Silmarillion or Unfinished Tales or other books related to that time period in which the series is taking place. They have rights to the Lord of the Rings and its appendices, which briefly covers the timelines including the First and Second Ages, but not in complete detail like the previous books that I mentioned, these two. Creating an accurate, complete account of the First and Second Ages isn't possible with the material they have at their disposal. So why even do it at all? As was recently reported, other Tolkien works we just mentioned have gone up for sale, which is, they put the price tag at about $2 billion. And I previously did a video where their capital, Amazon, is at like 2.2 trillion. So they have probably the best seat in the house to buy more of Tolkien's works and then use them for future adaptations. Which, oh my god. This means if Amazon purchases the rights, they would own multiple works of Tolkien that will allow them to have a stranglehold on what appears to be Middle-earth in the foreseeable future. Now, lastly, in one of Tolkien's letters, he states, "I have great sympathy with any foreign publisher adventurous enough to embark on a translation of my work. After all, my chief interest in being translated is pecuniary," so monetary, "as long as the basic text is treated with respect, so that even if the touchiness of the parenthood is outraged, I should wish to refrain from doing or saying anything that may damage the good business of being published in other countries. But the matter of the appendices has a pecuniary aspect." Now the key phrase for me here is, as long as the basic text is treated with respect. Now we can already see that it isn't being, but I said you can be the judge in deciding whether Amazon's treating it with respect when the first season releases, September 2nd, later this year. Everything we've seen with this, and everything I've shown in this, and I've shown you text from Tolkien's actual works himself that show this is not what he intended. This is not what he wrote. So how can you call this? All that they've done is slap the Lord of the Rings name on this. It's Lord of the Rings in name only because the time period they're doing is technically a lot more encompassing than what they are doing, but they can't do it because they don't actually have the rights to those two books yet. I've gone down the Young Ripper route and saying, this is it, I'm done.
Just stop!
These people do not care what they are doing to these franchises, and you shouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt of watching this crap because they've clearly showed you they don't care about what they're making. They've just taken it to slap their sticker on it, say, Amazon, this is Lord of the Rings now. Well, it's not. We all know it's not. We know what you're doing. You're using this to push your agenda, and I'm done. I'm done with it. I've seen it with Star Wars, MCU, DC, and now Lord of the Rings that's it, my final straw. I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. You're taking something that is already done, has been written so long ago, and you're using it to push an agenda. You're taking things that didn't even happen in the books to make, what, strong women? She was already a strong woman. She's the strongest freaking elf. In the book, she's like one of the strongest female elves in history. So she was already a strong female character. You don't need to do this to make her a strong female character. They don't respect you as a customer. They don't respect Tolkien, the creator, and they don't respect his works, clearly, because they're making things like this that have nothing to do with what he wrote.
They don't care at all.
Watch it if you want. I probably won't be, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this video out there, and I'll see you in the next one.